Hello there, and welcome to Sleep Science Galaxy. Right now, you don't need to think or follow anything at all. Let your breathing slow down and allow your body to feel safe within this gentle stillness. There are no goals to reach here, only a wide, quiet space where you can rest. Tonight, we'll listen to soft stories about moons, the silent companions of planets, always present yet rarely asking for attention. They drift slowly along their orbits, carrying steady cycles, like the distant heartbeat of the universe. Each moon has its own rhythm, calm and enduring, existing through stretches of time far longer than any human thought. This is not a video for discovering or remembering. It is a quiet place you can return to each night, letting your mind settle beneath the gentle light of distant moons. And now, allow the journey to begin. Very slowly. Earth's moon and time. In the gentle darkness of the universe, there is a familiar companion that has always been there, quietly hanging in Earth's sky. The moon makes no sound, moves with no urgency. Yet if you listen deeply enough, you may sense that it is telling a very long story. The story of time, of changes unfolding so slowly, they are almost impossible to feel. Few people realize that, in this very moment as you lie here, letting your body soften and your breath drift freely, the moon is also quietly moving away from us. Not through sudden leaps or dramatic upheavals, but through a motion so subtle it is nearly invisible. Each year that passes, it retreats a tiny distance farther from Earth, just enough to remind us that even the bonds we imagine to be eternal are never truly still. This distancing carries no sorrowful farewell. It is more like a slow, orderly step backward, guided by the ancient rhythm of gravity and the oceans. It is our own Earth, with its vast seas, that helps create this motion. As the planet turns, the waters rise and fall, gentle tides brushing against rocky shores, continents, and the very body of Earth itself. Within that soft friction, energy is transferred, little by little, like the lightest of touches. And the moon, our companion above, receives that energy and slowly drifts farther away. No one pushes, no one commands, only the quiet operation of natural law. Along with this change, time on Earth itself is being stretched. Today's day is longer than a day from billions of years ago, though by such a tiny fraction that we cannot perceive it in daily life. Yet to the universe, these small fractions matter deeply. In the distant past, when life was still young, a day may have lasted only a few hours. Light and darkness smeaned rapidly, like the hurried heartbeat of a newly born planet. Now, under the moon's silent influence, that rotation slows. Time is gently widened, allowing life more space to adapt, to grow, to breathe. It is strange to consider that while we often experience time as something slipping through our fingers, here, time is being shaped by a satellite suspended in the sky. The moon does not merely reflect sunlight, it quietly touches the very flow of day and night. It is like a keeper of rhythm, not striking a drum, not raising its voice, simply standing there, patient, ensuring that Earth's tempo does not fall into chaos. And if we travel even further back into the past, the moon's story becomes softer and more surprising still. There was a time, long ago, when its surface was not as silent as it is today. Molten lava once flowed across its pale gray ground, and from deep fractures, gases escaped, gathering into a thin atmosphere. Not thick enough to form winds, not strong enough to hold warmth for long, yet still an atmosphere, a geological form of breath. For a brief span, The moon was not merely a barren rock. It once breathed, held molecules of gas close, wore a fragile veil around itself. That veil eventually faded, swept away by solar winds, thinned by the cold emptiness of space until only openness remained. Yet traces of that time may not have vanished entirely. A portion of water vapor, a fragment of memory, may have found refuge in deep craters forever wrapped in shadow, where sunlight has never reached. The thought that the moon was once different, that it has changed, reveals something quietly comforting. Nothing in the universe is truly unchanging. Even what we gaze upon each night, seemingly constant in form and stillness, has lived through many different chapters. Change is not always loud. Sometimes it happens so slowly that only the universe itself has the patience to witness it. And within that slowness, there is a deep sense of safety. The moon does not disappear suddenly, does not leave in panic. It drifts, very slowly, like a boat gliding across a calm lake. Earth does not spin into disorder because of this change, but adapts, adjusts, lengthening its days and nights by the smallest of moments. Everything unfolds in order, in balance, like a long piece of music where every note has its place. As you allow your mind to follow this story, you may begin to feel that same slow rhythm within your own body. Your breath, your heartbeat, are also finding their way toward a similar state. There is no need to speed up, no need to slow down by force. Simply allow things to happen. Time, after all, is not an enemy chasing us. It is a wide river, and in this moment, you are allowed to float upon it. The moon, in its quiet journey, seems to whisper that all change can unfold peacefully. You do not need to be afraid when things are no longer as they once were. Earth changed the pace of its rotation, and life continued to flourish. The moon lost its atmosphere, and it still remains, still lighting the night, still holding its place in the cosmic symphony. Perhaps that is the greatest gift of this story. While the human world so often rushes, demanding that we adapt quickly, the night sky reminds us that some changes happen slowly enough to harm no one. You can relax. You can trust that not every movement carries danger. Some movements are simply growth, natural transitions from one state to another. And as that thought settles, as the image of the moon drifting farther away through the silent expanse, you may allow your mind to drift as well. There is no need to grasp at time. No need to worry about long days or short ones. Just be here, in this moment, where everything is unfolding exactly as it needs to. Like the moon, like the earth, like your own breath, everything is moving. Very slowly, within a gentle order that the universe has patiently sustained for billions of years. The strange shapes of small moons. As the thought of time gently settles, as the familiar image of Earth's moon continues to drift slowly through the mind, something very natural begins to happen. Our gaze starts to move away from that large, round, gentle companion and travels a little farther, deeper into the quiet regions of the solar system. There, not every moon carries the perfect form of a balanced sphere suspended in darkness. Some are smaller, more modest, and because of that, they feel closer, more endearing in their own unique way. In that cold expanse, there exist moons that seem as though they were shaped while the universe itself was still half asleep. Some are knobby and uneven, like an awkward potato. Some are flattened, resembling a classic flying saucer. Others bulge at the center, evoking the image of a ravioli drifting silently among the stars. They do not strive to be round. They do not force themselves into any ideal form. They are simply themselves, keeping every rough contour exactly as it was from the beginning. If we listen to their story with a relaxed mind, we begin to understand that these strange shapes are not mistakes, but gentle consequences of gravity. These small moons are too light, too tiny to pull themselves into smooth spheres. Their gravity is like a very weak embrace, not strong enough to press everything into order. And so they preserve the randomness, the primordial irregularity of their birth. And somehow, that is precisely what makes them strangely lovable. Imagine a moon like Phobos, floating around Mars. It does not possess the majesty of a large world. Instead, it feels like an ancient fragment of rock, worn down and fractured, hanging within a fragile orbit. The long grooves across its surface resemble wrinkles, telling the story of a life stretched and stressed, yet not yet broken apart. Phobos is not round, not smooth, but it carries a quiet resilience. It exists, even knowing that one day its orbit may no longer be safe. Farther still, around Saturn, there is a moon so small that at first glance, it hardly seems like a real world at all. Pan drifts along the planet's brilliant rings, bearing a raised ridge around its waist, as if it had accidentally put on clothing that was too tight. As it glides through the icy particles of the rings, material clings to its body, slowly accumulating and shaping that peculiar form. Pan is like a tiny creature, quietly sweeping through a frozen ocean, leaving neat gaps behind it. It does not need to be large to have an effect. Simply by being present, in the right place and rhythm, the surrounding world is changed. And then there is Hyperion, one of the strangest characters in this story. Looking at Hyperion feels like gazing at a cosmic sponge, hollowed, full of deep cavities and shadow. But what makes it truly remarkable is not only its porous shape, but the way it moves through space. Hyperion does not rotate smoothly or keep a steady rhythm. It tumbles, tilts, and spins chaotically, as if dreaming in the universe and forgetting which way is up. Within that chaos, there is a gentle innocence, like a child who has not yet learned to walk in a straight line. These small moons teach us a lesson very different from that of large, round, balanced worlds. They do not represent perfection, but acceptance. Acceptance that not everyone has enough gravity to pull everything into order. Acceptance that sometimes keeping the rough edges, the unevenness, is the most natural way to exist. In the vastness of space, no one judges the shape of a moon. There is no standard it must conform to. And so, every form becomes a story. Thinking about this, a familiar sense of relief may arise. Like those small moons, human beings are not always whole, balanced, or complete. There are parts of us that are rough, corners that have not yet been smoothed, and at times, we move through life a little awkwardly. But the universe, in all its vastness and patience, has never considered that a flaw. It simply allows us to drift, as long as we remain within the orbit of life. From a distance, those peculiar shapes carry a gentle comfort. They are not threatening, not overwhelming. Instead, they soften space itself, making it feel less severe, less cold. Amid giant planets and strict laws, the presence of these cosmic potatoes feels like a small, private smile, one that only those who look long enough can notice. They whisper that the universe is not only strength and order, but also spontaneity and kindness. And as you let your mind rest within that image, you may begin to feel safer as well. Space suddenly feels more friendly, more intimate, as if those distant worlds are giving you permission to be yourself. Imperfect, uneven, unfinished. You may carry your own edges, your own unsorted parts, and still be allowed to drift within the peaceful orbit of the night. These small moons, with their strange shapes and silent stories, do not demand great attention. They simply exist, very softly, like a reminder that even in the largest universe, there is room for awkwardness, for incomplete forms. And that is what makes this journey lighter, less distant, allowing you to continue drifting, slowly, peacefully, ready to enter the next wondrous worlds without carrying any weight at all. Oceans beneath the ice. As the images of small, uneven, and awkward moons slowly settle in the mind, while their quiet charm still lingers like a subtle smile from the universe, our gaze continues to drift farther away, leaving behind those familiar, lumpy shapes. We move into another realm, where stillness no longer feels random, but becomes deep, mysterious, and full of promise. There, beneath a layer of frozen ice that seems unmoving, the universe may be hiding something very close to what we call life. Europa appears as a blue-white world, so quiet it feels almost unreal. Its surface is not scarred by chaotic craters like the smaller moons, nor is it covered in lava or ash. Instead, it is wrapped in a bright shell of ice, split by long, winding cracks like fractures on a frozen winter lake. From a distance, everything looks cold and still. Yet beneath that calm surface, an entirely different story is quietly unfolding. Hidden beneath tens of kilometers of ice lies a vast ocean stretching across the entire world. Not a small lake, not a pocket of trapped liquid, but a global sea, one believed to hold more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. If you allow that thought to spread slowly, it can soothe the mind in an unexpected way. In a universe that often seems dry and frozen, such an immense reservoir of water has been resting there silently for billions of years. The wonder lies not only in the presence of water, but in the fact that it remains liquid. At such a distant orbit, sunlight is far too weak to warm the surface. Everything should be completely frozen, rigid, and lifeless. Yet Europa does not rely on light to keep itself warm. It is heated from within by a very different source of energy, slow, subtle, and remarkably persistent. Each time Europa circles Jupiter, the giant planet's immense gravity gently stretches and relaxes it again and again. This rhythmic flexing is like a deep breath, repeating endlessly. Inside Europa, the friction created by this motion generates heat, just enough to keep the ocean from freezing. No fire, no sunlight, only the steady rhythm of gravity. Within this quiet repetition, warmth is sustained and water continues to flow. If you imagine that ocean, picture a place without sunlight, without blue skies or shimmering waves. Instead, there is deep darkness, cold water that is not dead, moving slowly beneath a thick, protective shell of ice. At the ocean's floor, there may be smaller sources of heat still, places where warm rock meets cold water, where minerals dissolve, where energy is released little by little. On Earth, similar environments have supported life without light, relying only on chemistry and heat. And that idea, even as a hypothesis, is enough to plant a gentle seed of hope in this frozen expanse. This hope is not loud or dazzling. It does not claim that life is certainly there. It merely whispers that it could be. And sometimes, in a meditative journey, that word could carries more weight than any certainty. It opens space for imagination, for curiosity, for the sense that the universe still holds untold stories. Europa does not reveal its secrets easily. It hides its ocean beneath ice, much like the human mind sometimes hides its deepest emotions beneath a calm exterior. Yet the cracks on its surface, the strange streaks of color tracing the ice, suggest movement below. At times, plumes of water or vapor may rise into space, gently reminding us that the ocean is not completely sealed away. It still connects, still communicates, if only briefly, in a relaxed state. We listen to this story not to demand clear answers, but to feel the openness it brings. Europa does not ask us to believe that life exists there. It simply invites us to sit, slow our breath, and allow the thought of a distant ocean to coexist with our own breathing. In a human world filled with speed and demands, the idea that somewhere a world has patiently kept its waters warm for billions of years offers a uniquely comforting sense of safety. That sense of safety comes not from familiarity, but from quiet stability. Europa has been there for a very long time, rotating steadily, enduring immense gravitational forces, keeping its ocean from freezing despite harsh conditions. It does not need to change quickly to survive. It only needs to maintain its rhythm. And perhaps that too is a gentle message for us. Not every moment requires rushing forward. Sometimes holding a slow, steady, and consistent rhythm is what matters most. If life exists in Europa's dark ocean, it would be very different from anything we know. No bright colors, no trees, no sky. Yet that difference is what makes the possibility beautiful in its own way. It reminds us that life is not confined to the images we are used to. It can hide, move quietly, adapt, and wait with patience. And as you let your mind drift within that image, you may feel a spreading calm, an ocean without light, yet not lifeless, a frozen world, yet warm from within, a mystery unanswered, not unsettling, but gently hopeful. In this moment, you do not need to find life beyond Earth. It is enough to know that the universe is wide, patient, and creative enough to keep that possibility alive. And so, together with Europa, we continue to drift, carrying the feeling that even beneath the thickest ice, there can be movement. Even in the deepest silence, there can be life. And even as you slowly slip toward sleep, your mind can be wrapped in a soft, quiet hope, like a distant ocean breathing steadily beneath the ice of the universe. An alien world that feels familiar. As the thought of the dark ocean hidden beneath Europa's ice slowly settles, as the fragile yet persistent sense of hope continues to drift gently through the mind, our journey begins to shift once more. Leaving behind a world of liquid water and eternal darkness, we move toward another place, one where the sky is not blue, where sunlight is filtered through thick layers of haze, and where the landscape feels at once impossibly foreign and strangely familiar. Here, it is as if the universe is experimenting with another version of Earth, rewritten with entirely different elements and temperatures. Titan appears in the imagination as a softly orange world, not bright, not sharp, but muted, like the light of a late afternoon. Its atmosphere is thick and heavy, so dense that if you were standing on its surface, you would feel the air pressing around your body more firmly than on Earth. It is not a threatening sensation, but more like being wrapped in a heavy blanket, shielding you from the harshness of open space. Within this embrace, Titan feels safe in its own way, despite lying far from the sun's warm light. Beneath that haze, the landscape slowly reveals itself, and it is here that a quiet sense of familiarity begins to rise. There are winding paths like rivers, wide lowlands resembling seas, and still shorelines stretching calmly toward the horizon. Yet if you were to reach out and touch those waters, you would not feel the familiar coolness of liquid water. Instead, there is liquid methane, flowing slowly in Titan's deep cold, taking on the role that water once played on Earth. Methane here does not merely exist, it participates in a steady, rhythmic cycle. It evaporates, gathers into clouds within the dense atmosphere, and then falls back to the surface as rain. These rains are not violent or loud. They sink quietly into the frozen ground, collect into streams, and flow toward large lakes and deep seas. The cycle repeats, patient and regular, like the breathing of Earth itself, different only in chemistry and temperature. It is this structural similarity, despite a complete difference in substance, that creates Titan's uniquely strange yet familiar feeling. It is like seeing a dreamlike reflection of our own world. The familiar rules are still present. Rain falls, rivers flow, seas accumulate. But everything is carried out with different materials, in a different environment, beneath a different sky. The universe, it seems, does not follow a single path in shaping worlds, but explores many variations, each with its own order and quiet beauty. In a relaxed state, without the need to analyze or remember, Titan can be felt as a gentle reminder that familiarity does not have to mean sameness. Some things look different, feel different, yet still carry the same underlying rhythm. And that realization can bring a sense of safety. For if the universe can create a world that is both alien and close at once, then perhaps the differences within ourselves are not something to fear. Titan's thick atmosphere does more than conceal its surface. It protects it. Light is scattered, temperatures are moderated in their own way, and complex chemical reactions unfold slowly in the air. Organic molecules form, drift, fall, and accumulate over time. No one claims that life exists here. But the atmosphere recalls a very ancient Earth, when everything was still in preparation, when chemistry came before biology, when the building blocks of life were being quietly tested. This thought does not need to lead to any conclusion. It only needs to be held gently, as an open possibility. Titan promises nothing and proves nothing. It simply shows that familiar processes can unfold under very different conditions, and that life, if it ever emerges, may take forms far beyond what our current imagination can reach. If you imagine yourself standing on Titan's surface, wearing protective gear, gazing across a still methane sea beneath a dim orange sky, you might find that it does not feel as alien as expected. The horizon is still there. The sense of openness remains. Only the colors and substances have changed. Silence surrounds you, but it is not an empty silence. It is the silence of a world operating very slowly, very steadily, without needing anyone's attention. In this meditative journey, Titan offers a unique kind of comfort. It shows that even in the most unfamiliar environments, the universe preserves familiar patterns, as if it does not want us to feel completely lost. There is rain, there is flow, there are cycles, there is rhythm. And rhythm is something the human body and mind have known for a very long time. As you let your breath blend with this image, you may sense a subtle stability. There is no need to understand what methane is. No need to analyze chemistry or physics. It is enough to feel that somewhere far away, a world is reigning in its own way, flowing in its own way, and still maintaining order within difference. In this sense, Titan becomes an emotional bridge. It connects the utterly alien with the deeply familiar, the vast universe with the human experience of living. It whispers that you can step into newness without losing your sense of safety. You can exist in a different environment, a different phase of life, and still find a rhythm to breathe, to endure, to be. And as the journey continues, as the image of the dim orange sky slowly dissolves into the gentle darkness of sleep, Titan leaves behind a quiet calm. Not the stillness of absolute ice, nor the stillness of a lightless deep ocean, but the stillness of a world quietly living in its own way, familiar enough to ease fear, and different enough to keep wonder alive. Violent energy beneath the surface. As the warm, muted orange glow of Titan slowly dissolves into silence, as that brief sense of familiarity settles gently within the mind, the journey quietly shifts direction once again. The calm does not disappear. It is simply placed beside something very different. Stronger, deeper pulse, as if the universe were softly turning a mirror to reveal its opposite side. Still moons, still silent orbits around giant planets. Yet beneath that tranquil exterior, there are worlds that never truly sleep. In the cold reaches around Saturn, Enceladus appears small and pure, like a jewel made of ice. Its surface is so bright that it reflects the sun's faint light, giving an impression of cleanliness and gentleness. At first glance, you might think this is a completely motionless world, a silent block of ice drifting through darkness. And yet, from long fractures near its south pole, columns of water suddenly rise, erupting straight into space, like breath released from a living body. These plumes are not loud in the way fire or thunder is loud. They are quiet yet powerful, steady and persistent, carrying water, ice, and organic molecules, painting fine, shimmering veils across the void. This is not a destructive explosion, but a measured release, like the slow heartbeat of a vast organism hidden beneath the ice. Below that cold, luminous surface, a salty ocean is in motion, kept warm by tidal forces, seeking contact with the outer universe through narrow cracks. On Enceladus, intensity does not appear frightening. It feels like energy that is guided, contained, as though this world has learned how to release pressure without tearing itself apart. In a relaxed state, listening to the story of these plumes rising and dissolving into space, one may sense a strange balance. The force here is not chaotic violence, but part of a cycle, a way of maintaining deep internal stability. But if Enceladus is a whisper of restrained energy, then Io is a roar that never ends. Orbiting the giant planet Jupiter, Io is constantly stretched and squeezed by brutal gravitational forces, not only from its parent planet, but also from neighboring moons. The result is a world that offers no place for rest. Its surface is endlessly renewed by lava, by rivers of molten rock flowing for hundreds of kilometers, by towering fountains of material thrown high into space like colossal torches. Io does not hide its energy. It displays everything openly, like a forge that never stops working. Volcanoes here are not rare events. They are the default state. The ground is always moving, always hot, always caught between destruction and rebirth. If Enceladus evokes the feeling of being wrapped in ice and vapor, Io presents bare fire, unforgiving, exposed, without shelter. The contrast between these two worlds is stark, yet not contradictory. Both are sustained by the same source, gravity, the invisible but relentless force that stretches and shapes worlds according to its own rhythm. The difference lies only in expression. On Enceladus, energy flows into water and ice. On Io, it bursts outward as fire and molten stone. two manifestations of the same law, two expressions of the same underlying current. When these images are placed side by side in the mind, the meaning of contrast becomes clearer. On one side, silent plumes of water rise into frozen darkness, hinting at the possibility of hidden life. On the other, relentless fire dominates a surface never stable enough for anything fragile to endure. Between these extremes, the universe seems to be testing every possibility, from nurturing conditions to raw destruction. In a meditative space, this does not create unease. Instead, it can bring a deep sense of acceptance. Not all energy needs to be gentle to have meaning. Not all violence is pointless. On Io, chaos is part of its nature, a way for the world to release immense pressure it cannot contain. On Enceladus, energy transforms into water and soft motion, opening questions about life. Both are true to their circumstances. As you listen to this story from a place of safety, you may recognize something deeply human. Within each of us, different layers of energy coexist. Some parts need powerful release, like Io's fire, so tension does not build endlessly. Other parts need gentle release, like Enceladus's water, to nourish what is delicate inside. Through these moons, the universe tells not only its own story, but quietly reflects our inner rhythms as well. Potential life and chaos are not enemies, but opposite ends of a wide spectrum. Where there is energy, there is possibility, the possibility to destroy, and the possibility to create. Enceladus invites us to dream of dark oceans where chemistry may slowly arrange itself into biology. Io reminds us that some environments are too extreme for life as we know it, yet still essential to the balance of the systems they belong to. And as you allow these images to pass through your mind, without clinging to detail, simply feeling the rhythm of contrast, you may find yourself more at ease. For if the universe can hold both stillness and violence within a single harmonious structure, then human emotions, with their calm moments and their intense ones, also have a rightful place. Nothing needs to be erased, only allowed to exist at the right time, in the right way. In the end, as the red fire of Io and the shimmering water mist of Enceladus slowly fade, what remains is not noise, but a deep sense of balance. An understanding that beneath the quiet surface of the universe, energy is always flowing, sometimes gently, sometimes fiercely, but rarely without purpose. And in this moment, as you drift toward rest, that balance can spread to you as well, allowing tension to release, chaos to be accepted, and every possibility to settle softly into a place of light, quiet trust. Moons that feel like planets, as the silent roar of fire on Io and the icy breath of water from Enceladus slowly fade into the background. Space opens itself in a different way. After witnessing energy released at two extremes, one side restless and chaotic, the other steady and discreet, the mind naturally seeks a place of balance, a world that does not need to shout to be noticed, nor hide to survive. A place where complexity does not oppose calm, but stands beside it, grounded and steady, like a wide, open horizon. Ganymede drifts along its orbit with a quiet composure, not flamboyant like fire, not whispering like water. It exists with an ancient kind of confidence. From afar, Ganymede feels less like a satellite and more like a complete world. Its surface carries layered traces of time, regions of light and dark, long grooves etched like deep memories, sheets of ice resting above an interior that is not entirely stilled. Here, life is not promised through eruption or brilliance, but through structure, through an internal order shaped patiently over billions of years. What truly sets Ganymede apart is not its appearance, but what it holds within. Deep beneath the cold ice lies a moving metallic heart, strong enough to generate an invisible shield. In the harsh ocean of space, where particle winds and radiation can erode anything fragile, Ganymede wears its own quiet armor, a magnetic field of its own, smaller than those of giant planets, yet sufficient to create a pocket of calm. This is not power meant to strike outward, but power meant to preserve. A rare quality that makes this world feel less like a dependent moon and more like a planet in miniature. As we notice that boundary, a gentle but profound question begins to emerge. What truly defines a world? Is it orbiting a star? Or is it the inner functions, magnetic fields, internal structure, geological history, that give a body its identity? If Ganymede were not bound to Jupiter, if it drifted freely around the sun, it might well carry a different name. But the universe is not overly concerned with labels. It allows boundaries to blur, letting worlds exist that are moons by position, yet planets in spirit. That softness of boundaries brings a subtle sense of relief. It frees us from the need to classify everything too sharply. Ganymede does not need to become a planet to have meaning. It already is itself, large enough to surpass many planets, complex enough to sustain layered oceans of ice and water, stacked like a silent architecture. Deep pressure transforms water and ice into unfamiliar phases, yet order is maintained. There is no urgency here, no display, only endurance. In a meditative state, the image of Ganymede feels like an invitation to sit down, not to marvel at spectacle, but to feel stability. Some worlds do not need explosions to prove they are alive. They live by maintaining rhythm, by protecting what lies within from what presses in from without. And perhaps this mirrors a deep human wish: to be safe, to be held, to be allowed to exist without constantly having to perform. Ganymede also carries a quiet, graceful humility. Though larger than many worlds, though possessing rare characteristics, it continues to orbit its parent planet without competing for center stage, without seeking the spotlight. This humility is not a lack of confidence, but a form of balance. It knows its place within the system, and from that place, it functions perfectly. A world that does not need to stand at the center to carry weight. Thinking about this, a gentle comfort may begin to spread. We do not always need to be named according to others' expectations. We do not always need grand titles to prove our worth. Ganymede exists in an in-between space, between moon and world, and it is precisely this overlap that gives it depth. Here, familiar rules loosen, and possibility quietly expands. If you imagine yourself drifting above Ganymede's surface, your eyes would trace ancient ice fields and long grooves telling stories of time. Beneath them, layered oceans lie still, yet not lifeless. Around you, an invisible shield softens the harsh flow of radiation. The feeling is not dramatic, not overwhelming. It is like stepping into a quiet room, one arranged so that you can breathe a little more deeply. On this journey, after touching fire and water, Ganymede brings Earth. Not Earth as a material, but as a foundation. A place to stand. A reminder that complexity does not have to come with anxiety. That there can be worlds immense yet quiet, powerful yet unshowy. And as you let this image settle, what may remain is a very gentle understanding. Boundaries do not need to be sharp to matter. You can exist in between. You can be more than one thing at once and still be whole. Ganymede, in its steady silence, seems to say, allow yourself to live in that blurred space, where no label is required, and where value comes from inner structure rather than outward position. As the journey continues to drift onward, Ganymede does not hold you in place. It simply offers a deep breath, a sense of solid ground, so that you can move forward into the universe's next stories, lighter, calmer, and more open than before. The moon and life on Earth, as the sense of stability left behind by Ganymede still spreads gently through the mind, like firm ground beneath a vast universe. Our journey naturally turns back toward what is most familiar. After traveling through distant worlds, oceans hidden beneath ice, sleepless fires, and blurred boundaries between planets and moons, our gaze slowly returns to the companion that has always been there from the very beginning. No grand introduction is needed, no display of strength. The moon simply hangs in the sky, quietly, as if it had never been away. And yet, within that familiarity, one of the deepest stories of life is being told. Not loudly like volcanoes, not mysteriously like frozen oceans. The moon influences Earth in a way so subtle that we often forget it is there at all. And perhaps that is its most important role. Because not everything that nurtures life needs to stand out. Some things only need to be present, at the right place, at the right time, and remain there patiently for billions of years. From Earth's earliest days, when the planet was young and restless, its axis of rotation was far from stable. A world without a firm anchor can easily tilt and wobble, shifting chaotically under the gravitational influence of other planets. But the moon, through its mass and position, became an invisible stabilizer. Not through force, but through a gentle, steady pull. It helped Earth maintain a consistent tilt. Thanks to that stability, day and night, warm seasons and cold seasons, could repeat in cycles predictable enough for life to adapt. This stability is not something we feel moment to moment. It is like the solid floor beneath our feet. Its importance only becomes clear when it is gone. If Earth's axis were to swing wildly, climates would shift violently, familiar cycles would break apart, and early life would struggle to find a rhythm stable enough to endure. The moon did not create life, but it created a stage calm enough for life to emerge and experiment with itself. Alongside this steadiness, the slow movements of the oceans were also guided by the companion above. As the moon's gravity lifts and lowers the seas, coastlines cease to be static boundaries. They become transitional zones, where water and land meet in a steady rhythm. In those places, chemistry is given the chance to mix, concentrate, and separate, again and again. This repetition, simple as it may seem, creates ideal conditions for more complex reactions to unfold. In the imagination, one can picture ancient shallow pools where tides carried molecules in, then withdrew, leaving them exposed beneath the sun. Wet-dry cycles repeated over millions of years, unhurried, without clear intention, yet patient enough to allow fragile structures to form. There were no guarantees, no pre-written plans. Only time, water, and rhythm. And through all of it, the moon remained, keeping that rhythm from breaking. What is striking is that none of this required direct intervention. The moon did not choose where tides would be strongest, nor decide where life should appear. It simply performed its role neutrally, like a background drum beat in a long piece of music. And it was precisely this neutrality that allowed diversity to arise. Life had room to try, to fail, to evolve, without being erased by extremes too violent to survive. In a relaxed state, Listening to this story can reveal a gentle philosophy. The greatest influence does not always come from dramatic action. Sometimes, what matters most is quiet persistence. The moon did not need to change its shape, rush closer, or suddenly drift away. It only needed to continue its orbit. And Earth, along with the life upon it, adapted around that steady rhythm. There is a deep comfort in this quietness. In human life, we often search for dramatic turning points, for moments of clear transformation. But the universe reminds us that what sustains life over the long term usually unfolds very slowly. The moon took billions of years to help create the stable conditions we now enjoy. There was no single event that can be called a decisive moment. Only countless cycles, repeating patiently and consistently. When we look up at the night sky, the moon's soft light may evoke romance or ancient stories. Yet behind that beauty lies a very real and very deep relationship between two worlds. Earth is not alone. It is accompanied, balanced, and gently reminded of its rhythm by a satellite that is always there. And perhaps life is the same. It does not require constant miracles. It needs an environment stable enough to grow along its own path. In this meditative space, the story of the moon and life is not meant to prove anything absolutely. It simply invites a very soft sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the quiet things that have supported us all along, even when we rarely notice them. Gratitude for the invisible pulls that keep the world from tipping too far. And gratitude for the steady rhythms that allow life, and moments of rest like this one, to exist. As you let that thought drift by, you may feel safer within your own rhythm of living. Not everything needs to be tightly controlled. Some foundational forces are quietly at work, just as the moon continues to do its work even when you are not looking. You are allowed to trust that not everything requires maximum effort to function. Sometimes, maintaining a steady rhythm, a persistent presence, is enough. And as this story gently settles, as the image of the moon returns to its familiar place in the night sky, what remains may be a deep sense of calm. A feeling that life is built not only from brilliant moments, but from silent companions. Gentle gravitational pulls, tireless cycles. And in this moment, as you slowly relax into sleep, that quiet presence can remain with you, just as it has remained with Earth for billions of years. Origin stories and quiet tragedies. As the sense of gratitude for life's silent companion continues to spread gently through the mind, as the steady rhythm the moon gives to Earth has had time to settle, our journey turns softly toward a deeper layer. Stability is not always the beginning. Behind every enduring balance, there are often more violent stories. Origins born from collision, and destinies shaped by chaos before finally finding stillness. Before becoming the familiar companion hanging in the night sky, the moon was born from an event that was anything but gentle. When Earth was still young, its surface hot and unstable, a planet-sized body known as Theia collided with it in a catastrophic impact. There was no intention, no design, only intersecting orbits meeting in a fateful moment. Matter was torn apart, melted, hurled into space as a cloud of chaos. And then, from that very debris, the moon slowly took shape, gathering piece by piece, cooling, stabilizing. If this thought is allowed to drift slowly, it carries a strange weight. One of the most peaceful symbols in the night sky emerged from one of the most violent events in planetary history. Balance was not born from harmony, but from chaos. And over time, that chaos settled, rearranged itself, and became the foundation for order. The universe does not avoid tragedy. It moves through it, and then allows time to do the rest. Farther out in the solar system, another world bears the clear imprint of a violent past. Triton orbits Neptune in the opposite direction of most moons. That backward motion feels like a quiet statement. I did not belong here at first. Triton is thought to be a captured wanderer, a body pulled in from a distant, dark region and trapped by a giant planet's gravity. That process could not have been gentle. It must have disrupted, unsettled, perhaps even destroyed earlier structures around it. Now, Triton drifts in its unusual orbit, its surface coated in nitrogen ice, cold geysers rising under faint sunlight. It is silent, beautiful in a stark, frozen way. Yet, its reversed motion continues to tell a story of displacement, a remnant of ancient chaos preserved within today's steady movement. As if the universe allows memories of tragedy to remain, not to cause pain, but to remind us that every orbit has a history. Closer to us, around Mars, another tragedy is unfolding so slowly that it can only be sensed through thought, not sight. Phobos hangs in a fragile orbit, each revolution drawing it a little closer to its parent planet. There is no crash, no sudden collapse, only a patient, steady pull, gradually eroding its integrity. Long fractures stretch across Phobos like wrinkles, marks of a fate already written. In this story, tragedy is not loud. It unfolds in silence over millions of years. One day Phobos will break apart, perhaps becoming a faint ring of dust around Mars, or falling onto the dark red surface below. No one will witness that moment. There will be no audience. And yet, it is precisely this quietness that gives the story its depth. Not every ending needs an explosion. Some endings only need time. Sleep and meditative closing. As thoughts of science, of laser beams touching ancient surfaces, and the fragile footprints of humanity gently recede into the background, our journey also comes softly to a close. Not with a door shutting, but with an opening silence. After all the worlds we have passed through, all the stories we have listened to, the universe seems to ask nothing more of you. It simply invites you to let go. The moon is still there, as familiar as breath in the night. There's no need to think about its history, no need to remember collisions or experiments, no need to name anything at all. Just feel the soft light settling into your mind, like a thin veil of mist resting over tired thoughts. What was once intense, mysterious, or wondrous now dissolves into something very simple. Calm. In this moment, you are no longer observing the universe from a distance. You are no longer standing on Earth, looking up. Instead, you are allowed to become part of the movement itself. Imagine your body growing lighter, free of weight, free of the need to hold or support anything. You drift very slowly, like a small moon that has found its own orbit. No destination, no objective, only steady, safe motion. Any thoughts that remain may feel like thin clouds. You do not need to push them away. You do not need to hold on to them either. They will pass on their own, like light gliding across distant ice. The universe does not demand effort or focus. It allows you to relax completely, trusting that nothing needs to be solved right now. There is something deeply gentle in the idea that everything is already in its proper place. Planets continue to turn, moons continue to drift, oceans hidden beneath ice continue to move in deep silence. And you, in this moment, are allowed to simply exist. There's no need to become a better version of yourself. No need to understand anything more. Just be here, in the slow rhythm of your breath, in the sense of safety spreading from head to toe. If your body begins to feel heavier, this is not fatigue. It is rest approaching. Like a moon settling into a stable orbit, you are being drawn back to your natural balance. Any remaining tension can melt away, like excess heat leaving a world that is finely cooled. No pain, no sudden shift, just a very slow settling. In this settling, the boundary between you and the space around you becomes less defined. Your breathing blends into a larger rhythm. Time no longer presses forward. It widens and softens, like a perfectly still ocean. If images appear briefly in your mind, silver light, a night sky, quiet emptiness, let them come and go without attachment. You do not need to remember what you have heard. The stories have completed their task. They guided you across vast distances, and now they gently withdraw, like background music fading away. What remains is not information, but feeling. The feeling of being supported. The feeling of being held. The feeling that you are not alone in this space. If there is one final whisper from the universe, it is very simple. It says that you are allowed to rest, that nothing is chasing you through the night, that the most important movements are already happening without your effort. Just as the moons continue their orbits, even when no one is watching. And so, you may let your eyelids grow heavy. You may allow your breath to slow just a little more. You may let awareness drift, like light fading beyond the horizon. There's no need to try to sleep. Simply allow sleep to find you in its own natural way. If, in this final moment, you still hear a voice, imagine it as a small lamp slowly dimming. It does not go out all at once. It softens, warms, and then dissolves into gentle darkness. That darkness is not empty. It is full of rest, full of quiet safety, like the space between the stars. May you sleep deeply and lightly. May your thoughts rest, your body soften, and your mind drift freely, like a small moon in the perfect orbit of its own being. Tonight, there is nothing more you need to do. There's nowhere you need to go. You are already where you belong. Sleep well. And as you drift into dreams, allow the universe to keep moving for you.